everybody, and welcome to Positive Fandom. Welcome to the Burnettwork. I am here for our review of For All Mankind. Julian is going to be joining us in a minute. I just wanted to say hello to everybody who's here. Hi, Tom Jr. Jackson, my moderator, collaborator, and good friend. Tom, thank you so much for being here. Also welcomes everybody for All Mankind, episode 4 of season 4. Please do hit the like and subscribe buttons, guys. Also want to say hello to John Cipolla, who says, hey guys, just saw the episode. Yeah, it was a great episode. Another incredible episode of For All Mankind. And I am really looking forward to discussing it. Julian should be here in a minute. Bonzo Kilburn is here. Hi, Bonzo. How are you? Hope you are well. Hope everything is going great with you. So certainly do looking forward to that. Guys, so let's talk about episode number 4 of For All Mankind. I know Julian will be joining us in a minute. And David Rose is here. Hi, David Rose. I love the crown. RM with the crown. I love that, David Rose. I think that is a crown. I really do love things that look like that. So thank you so much for showing that. So let's see. Let me just go ahead and message Julian and see if we can get him to join us here. I'm just going to ask him to see if we can get him to join just with the audio because he's having difficulty with his. It is a crown. Thank you so much, David Rose, for the crown. I do appreciate it. I'm going to see if he can join with just with audio. So let's see. Because that might be good enough. And then we can have a discussion about the show. Hey, the Bosco Scenario is also here. Hi, Bosco Scenario, who says, Positive Fandom, I just started watching the series. Well, I'm so excited for you. You know, it's already in season 4, Bosco Scenario. Certainly wondering if there's a way that can be, you can continue to watch the series and let us know what you think of the seasons. We're already up to season 4, but I have to say that this is just such a spectacular show. You're just going to love it as you continue to watch the series. I'm just asking Julian one more time if he can log in with his phone. And let's see if that works. So, and see if he can do it that way. If not, I'm going to just go ahead and have to do it myself. John says, you are in for quite a ride. I just finished the rewatch. Yes, John, absolutely. And Tom Jr. Jackson says, hello. Hi, Tom. How are you today? Hope you had a great day. And it's great to see you, Tom. Bonzo says, do I have to start from the beginning or can I jump in now? I would start from the beginning, Bonzo. Start from the beginning, watch all the seasons. So go ahead and watch seasons 1 through 3 and then join us for season 4 because it's just so many incredible things that happen. If you're a fan of the space program, if you like anything associated with space, if you enjoy all of that good stuff, you absolutely want to go ahead and watch from the beginning. So please do that. The Bosco Scenario, it says Apple TV has some pretty solid writing, just finished Invasion. Yes. How was that Bosco Scenario? They also have a bunch of incredible things. I do like the production of Foundation, although I wasn't that jazzed about the writing, but it's an incredible production and they put so much into it. I think that Apple TV really is shining in so many areas. And John says he was at Kennedy Space Center 3 weeks ago and saw a Starlink launch in person. Wow, John, that is fantastic. I have never seen a launch of any kind. So I would just love to be able to see some kind of launch if there was anything like that. And the Basco Scenario says he loved it. Oh, that's so good to know. I've got to go ahead and watch Invasion upon your request, upon your recommendation, Bosco Scenario. I'm going to go ahead and watch that when I get a chance. And Lugnut6 is here. Hi, Lugnut6 says, and to the gorgeous Diamond Heartlit RM, you're a dreamy gem of heavenly paradise. Wow. Thank you, Lugnut6. I absolutely love the way that you describe me. You're very kind, and it is so sweet, and I so appreciate it. And I especially appreciate the support. Thank you for being here, and certainly being so kind with your words. And Tom G. Jackson has my YouTube channel here up. Please, guys, please do like and subscribe to Positive Fandom. This is being streamed onto the Burnettwork and Positive Fandom at the same time, but please do like and subscribe to Positive Fandom, guys. I could use some extra subscribers and do appreciate the support as well. Now, Tom, you also have your YouTube channel. It would be great to go ahead and see that link here as well. Launch is on my channel. So John, oh, I didn't know you had your own channel, John. John says the launch is on my channel if you want to see it. I am going to check that out. I certainly would love to see that coming up. So it looks like, let's see if we can get Julian on stage. Julian, how are you?
Very frustrated.
Well,
I'm getting a weird double echo of you through my headphones. It wouldn't let me listen to anything. I'm on my phone because the StreamYards won't let me do anything. It won't let me unmute, and it won't let me do the camera on my Mac. So,
well, we're just glad to see you here anyway, because there's a lot to talk about with this episode. How is it working for you on the phone now, Julian?
Well, it looks fine, but I'm hearing you as a double echo. It's going blah, 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 blah. It's very hard to understand you.
Okay. Well, do you think you can do the review, or you're
yeah, I don't know what's going on with the audio right now.
Okay. Well, can you hear me? I mean, can you comment on the show? Are you going to be able to comment on the show, Julian?
Yeah, I can. I can. Let me. Hello. Okay. Give it a try now.
All right. So this is John's YouTube channel. This is his link. John, thank you for sharing that in the chat. We certainly are going to go ahead and check out your channel, guys, here on the Burnettwork, and of course on Positive Fandom, where we support other creators. So please do check out John's YouTube channel as well. All right. So are you ready, Julian?
Yeah, I'm hearing you through my phone now. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Great.
Excellent. Well, guys, we're here. Welcome to For All Mankind, Season 4, Episode 4 review. Right here, we've been reviewing all the episodes of this series, and it's been amazing. Guys, as you know, we've reviewed seasons 1 through 3, and now we're on to episode 4 of season 4 already. And certainly, I think it is really interesting, Julian, because something that happens in this episode, I think you kind of predicted this a little bit. You know, I didn't think it was going to be a person from Helios who would be hurt in this. And who knew that Mars had their own fight club? I had no idea that existed, right? I mean, who knew, this was going on? And it's, the Russians, they have this thing going on there. But I was a little surprised at the behavior. And it seems like people get hurt or can get hurt on these missions pretty easily on stuff that's not even related to operations, Julian. We're not even talking about, a dangerous point in the game. They're literally on the surface. And the next thing you know, someone's shoving someone else. And this poor guy, a Helios employee, is injured by one of the astronauts. And, we were talking about this scenario and how some of the Helios employees felt like they were less than and they weren't worth as much. And now we have this opposite situation where one of the astronaut is the one who's attacking essentially a Helios worker. And it becomes really controversial, Julian, so controversial that they even go so far as to say that Cold War, which was eradicated, is now on Mars. Julian, did you think it was going to escalate to something like this?
No, that was pretty crazy. The fact that the Helios employee happened to be Russian also, and that the coup back home has changed fortunes for people, and now they have patrons that they can go to and say, hey, this isn't right. The guy's in a hyperbaric chamber. But more important, is the fact that yes, it's easy to get hurt. It's something can go wrong all the time. They're out in space. They're on another planet, for crying out loud. And I think that's part of the what they're really pushing, the fact that um, we're moving too fast. Our people are moving too fast. They're treating this. They're not. They're taking it lightly. They're not taking it as important as they should be. That every moment that you're moving around doing stuff up there, something bad can happen, and it's not like, oh well, I'll just get out of the house if it's on fire, or I'll call for help. It's not that easy. We find that out with Miles later on when he goes out by himself, which it's ridiculous. They're they're not at a point where people should be allowing one person to go out by themselves on the surface. You should always have. It's like when you're hiking or mountain climbing or whatever. You have a partner, for crying out loud. And
It's
so,
the buddy system. The buddy system.
yes,
Apparently, there is no buddy system on Mars. You're on your own. Apparently you can just hoof it on Mars. You can just go exploring on Mars, and nothing matters and nobody cares. Like you could just end up literally in a crevasse or wherever he was, and you just there. Like it's very blasé. It feels very unchecked. Is there any security on Mars?
not that we've seen. I'm really actually surprised that he was able to. I mean, I guess that's part of what they're trying to say. They're trying to show that there's this slack, that there's this, they're starting to take things for granted because it's all been going so well for them, that they seem to think that, it's just like another day out at the park. And it's not. It's another chance to die. So so it's really foolhardy for them to be doing this.
Yeah, it is very foolhardy. And certainly, what happens on Mars, I guess, can't stay on Mars, right? This was a Russian on Russian attack. And ever since this unrest in the show of what's gone on in Russia, things have been very unstable and very odd things are happening. Certainly, I think it is really interesting when we look at the roles of the politics and how it controls what goes on the station. That seems to happen a lot, where things look like they're fine, but then all of a sudden things aren't as fine as we thought they were. And it is very interesting to see how, when of course we always knew that Danielle would have to deal with Ed and Ed's opinion about everybody on the station, and they have very different views about how things should be run. And of course, the lady who is involved in this altercation, who assaulted her fellow countryman, happens to be really tight with Ed. Like, they're tight. I think they're having an affair. I mean, we haven't seen anything happen. We do see a kiss, but I think it's a little bit more than a kiss. Is it more than a kiss, Julian?
I don't think that they got to that. I think actually that it progressed because the time frame is pretty compressed into what we saw. All of this stuff is kind of happening sequentially, and last week we saw him show her his stash, and she found out about his tremors, and she kind of stroked his hand, but it didn't go much further than that. And I think this incident happens really close on after that. I don't think that they got any, because she's kind of respectful of the fact that she can tell that he still, misses his first wife so much, even though they had been divorced and such. So no, I don't think it had progressed any further than, and that makes it kind of all the more tragic, is that, there was a possibility that they could have. She obviously, had some feelings for him, and he seemed to be, attracted to her, and now she has to go, and who knows what's going to happen to her, right? So
Yeah.
that is a tragedy.
It is a tragedy, and it's very funny how at one moment it's pretty clear that Daniel Poole says, something has to be done. These people cannot be assaulting one another up there. Like this cannot be happening. And certainly, it's unacceptable anywhere. But she's like, this can't happen, and she wants to stop her Svetlana from, being even going on any actual missions. But even before she can get to that point, we find out that Svetlana is actually being grounded by the Russians themselves. And Danny has this really quick change of heart, Julian. I think it's really interesting how defensive she became over her and Ed at the same time. Like this kind of switch when they realized what would be going on or what could happen to her if she goes back home. It's actually kind of frightening. And, I think it is really interesting. They don't want her to hurt anybody, but there was a real fear of what's going to happen to her if she goes back home, right, Julian?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. With the Soviets still in control as they are, we know exactly what kind of, there's talk of gulags and all these things still exist, and we saw how Margot was treated, in that short time, where they, she could have been killed or not. Um, so yeah, there's this real concern of what can happen to her. The KGB, the secret police, all this kind of stuff is still terrorizing the citizens of the Soviet Union. Um, it's not a good thing, and like I am surprised that people haven't asked for asylum, but um, again, we saw what the Russians would do if they were thwarted in their aims, and so I have no, there's no question in my mind that had she asked for asylum or something like that, then they would have reacted the same way that that they did, where they made the communications difficult and kind of so we're not going to play with you anymore up on Mars, that kind of a thing. So very tough call. Very tough call indeed.
Yeah, and this lady Irina, who seems like she's in charge or is one of the people in charge, and she has a lot to say about the program and how it's going to progress, and how she's demanding that so it's not like return back to Earth. It is really scary the power that she has, and she's also very concerned, Julian, about the fact that there was this disaster, and she wants to solve the reason, or at least find the reason why the disaster even took place. She has this investigation open. Were you surprised that she heavily relied on Margot in order to get down to the heart of the matter, I guess?
No, I wasn't surprised at all. She lays it out. She says these people are still, they have. She's part of the system. She understands. I mean, she was working. She was part of the KGB. She understands exactly why these people are behaving the way they do. Because if they get out of line, they have to pay for it. If they mess up, they have to pay for it. It's like it's a no-win situation for most of these people, and so they're really afraid to like poke their head out and say, and so if you make a mistake, it's like, no, you can't show that you made a mistake, because you know so it's I'm glad that she was brought in. I'm glad that she was used, but she's finally being able to show her talents and what she can bring to the situation. The problem is, for this country, does she really? Is she? We're seeing in this episode that she's not very comfortable with doing that. I mean, even at the very beginning, before she even goes into the building, she's looking at that building, going, "Am I really doing this?" you know and we don't know how long she's been doing it. It sounds like she's been going in for a while. She's comfortable going in there and flashing her badge, and they know her and they let her in, but she mentions how everybody's been staying away from her. She's been isolated for the most part for a long time. She's not happy there.
So she gets this chance to help out, and then she sees what kind of comes of it. The consequences of her helping out is possibly something happening to somebody else.
Yeah, and this is such a good point that, there's this kind of very odd situation that Margot is in. She's, a lot of times, or at least it feels like she's the smartest person in the room. And, I think that she almost has to hold back a lot. It's not anything that she necessarily uh, desires to be put in a position of, but even when she's just even casually going to the vending machine, she seems to have these incredibly, I don't even know how to say it properly, but meaningful encounters with people. And it's not anything that she's actually intending to have. But I also wanted to mention that it reminded me, of this, Real Genius movie where,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, it's like she has the Real Genius moment where Val Kilmer goes into the freezer. I think it's liquid nitrogen. He cuts off
Yeah.
the liquid nitrogen piece, and then, of course, gets his cup of coffee in the morning, because why not, right? This is what science is all about. And, of course, we
Yes.
get that Real Genius moment back, don't we, Julian?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
totally inspired. I think maybe not entirely, but that's the first thing that I thought of. Are we going to see this relationship that, let's say Margot had with Alita, that very close relationship? Is Margot going to have that relationship with this new young woman whose boss that Margot just displaced in a way?
Well, at first we thought, yeah, hopefully we could see something like that. And then, of course, now she's like, oh, they took away my mentor. How is she going to tell that person, like, oh, I might be responsible for that? I mean, that's put any thought of their friendship, like, really on thin ice. Any potential friendship is kind of messed up already from the start.
Yeah, and it also, I mean, Margot is one of my favorite characters, but it does feel like, this drama seems to follow her wherever she goes. And I'm really worried for her in a sense of, she doesn't even have anybody to kind of fall back on. And although Arena seems very confident in Margot, we find out through Margot directly that the reason why the asteroid, let's say mission, the asteroid mission failed and resulted in the deaths of two people was because there was an issue when it came to quality assurance in regards to the size of those bolts. There's very, very specific specifications that were not met, were not quality checked, but went ahead and used that equipment, even though it was not actually appropriate for the specifications and intended use. And that was really a stinger. But Julian, I was very surprised at Arena's response. Arena felt that it would be more embarrassing to try and hide it than to just fess up. Are they going to fess up, Julian? Are they going to take full responsibility for this? How do you think they're going to spin this?
They're going to have to. She said they were going to have to, because if it looks like they're hiding something, it makes it even worse, because they will find out. And yeah, the fact that it was a translation, that they used the wrong, transfer of information for the tensile strength of their pieces, where it was supposed to be, foot pounds, and they used Newton. It was like, oh my God, it was, and so yeah, that guy messed up because he used the wrong calculations.
That's right. And of course, we knew we were going to get one of those conversion errors in the show. There was going to have to be one or two of them. Certainly, that was going to happen. We know that there was it a Mars landing? Was it one of those Mars rovers that was supposed to land, and that was the one that had the conversion issue in real life? It was a Mars lander. I can't remember where, but maybe it was Mars. And I remember that. And so I'm not surprised that we saw a conversion error as the reason why there was a failure in the program. Certainly they would have to have said that. But I think that hearing Arena's comments about Margot and saying, well, you're not afraid. But honestly, Julian, when Margot realized that that guy wasn't coming back, I have a feeling she was afraid. Do you think she was afraid after seeing that that guy was not coming back?
Yeah, I do. I think she's afraid. That she's like, why? You know, it's like it was just a mistake.
Yeah, and it felt as if like no one was ever going to see this guy again. That's what it feels like. It feels like we're never going to see this man again. But we also learn from Arena, and Arena decides to kind of reward Margot by giving her this photograph. And in the photograph is a picture of Sergey from 1969, Julian. Gee, this is going way back. Obviously, Arena knows that Margot cares about Sergey. What is Arena trying to do by giving her this picture and saying, oh, yes, I know Sergey. I've known him a long time. What is she trying to do to Margot?
No, she's trying to get her, you know, to feel comfortable working with her. You know, she's, I thought it sounded like she used a kind of a past tense for him. So I don't know if, we ever found out what happened to him, actually. So we don't even know if he's still around or not. But it sounds like she's dangling this prospect of him being around. But again, the conversation almost sounded like a past tense, that, you know, he was or he did or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know if he's still around.
Well, you know, I think it is really interesting. I don't know if he's around either, and it is something to think about. And certainly, I did want to mention that we do see a very interesting situation of, and I'm going to say it might be overreach, maybe not, but it feels like it's overreach with Miles just wanting to go for the gold here. Miles is essentially wanting to set up an empire. I know Dark Plato said he wants to be like the character from Breaking Bad. Yes, he does. I wouldn't be surprised if Miles had containers buried like a prepper on Mars somewhere. Like, you know, Miles is Miles is in this for the long haul, and absolutely nobody's going to stop him. He's got the gift of gab. He can talk to people. He can work out things. But however, the man he's working with is really nervous, Julian. He is super nervous. He feels like this might be going too far. Are they going too far?
Yes, definitely. He certainly is. He goes out by himself to try and prove this thing. He's like under pressure, you know, from back home to do something about, you know, income. And now he's seeing this chance to do something that would help. Sorry, my phone is low battery, and so I'm trying to get remedy that situation.
Now, were you surprised that Sam did not want to assist him in going out there and collecting trinkets, collecting these rocks, even though they were worth like thousands of dollars? Were you surprised by this?
No. She made the right choice. I mean, it is dangerous, and his business partner said, no, you know, if we do this, it means more people. More people means more mouths to feed, more people to make sure that they're quiet and don't, you know, get caught or screw up, you know. And he's right, and he already told us he had this experience. He saw it happen on the moon, you know, with other people, and that's how he ended up with the business, because other people screwed up and got caught. So we know that there is a danger to what he's doing. And so, you know, while we may understand that he wants to go for this main chance and sees like, man, we can make a lot of money off of these things. And they're just like all around here. We don't know what kind of, again, they've tried to make it out that, you know, getting to Mars is a lot easier now. But I have to, God, what's up with my hair? I have to figure that it's still, you know, you have to be careful about the weight that you're transporting. You have to know exactly what the weight is that you're transporting so that you can make the correct calculations for, you know, landing back on the Earth and stuff like that. So all this is stuff that needs to be, kept track of. And the fact that they've got this pipeline of, goods coming up to Mars, and I'm like, how is this really working out? And yeah, I'm on the edge thinking that something is going to go wrong soon. And Miles is, precipitating this by trying to add to his little portfolio there. So.
It's like he has all the time in the world. He's got 2 years on Mars and he's going to make the most of it. It's not going to be just about, him, being stuck here. This is going to be an enterprise for him, a much greater enterprise than I think he could have ever imagined. And I think that we do kind of get a taste of it when we hear how he's talking to the guy about how the North Koreans are asking for a lot of basic stuff too, like they need things, but then they also want to know what's the story with the woman who's supposed to somehow appear here. Julian, you and I have hedged our bets about how it's going to happen. As I told you, I thought that she'll come up as a kind of astronaut, or maybe they'll start to have, we did this in the 1980s where we had teachers come on board and different things like that, or go into the space program, participate. Maybe she'll get on there that way. I'm still wondering what's going to happen. And certainly, I think it is really interesting. Darth Plato says he thinks that he might try and push the Russian guy out of it. But, Miles doesn't have anybody on the opposite end like the Russian guy has. He seems to have someone working for him. Obviously, in Helios, he's deep in Helios. He's deep in there. And I have to say, I don't have a picture of Dev, but it was refreshing, Julian, to see Dev make comments about how he feels that Mars should be open to everybody. Julian, you did allude to this, a little bit just a few minutes ago, but it's nice to see Dev's passion and fantasy and a desire of exploration, that Mars should be open to all, regardless of who you are. Is Dev's dream going to come true? Because I thought he had let go of all those hopes and dreams and aspirations. It looks like they're back. He's dreaming again. What do you think is going to
happen? I think that they're going to be able to get their mission up to Mars somehow. Now, whether Dev's going to come along or not, I don't know. That would be interesting to see him hit, because he didn't come along on the other stuff. He was earthbound. And it's like, maybe it's time for him to come out. So,
yeah, maybe it's time for, we already know there's a hotel on the moon. Maybe there'll be one that'll be on Mars now. And certainly that will be something that'll be different. But I think that once Dev is no longer, he's not necessarily looking at Mars the same way that everybody else is looking at it. And, I think it is really interesting because it's nice to see another person who has a dream about Mars. So we saw Kelly had this dream about Mars. Now Dev is dreaming about it. It's wonderful. It is wonderful. But something that I have also noticed, Julian, is that there seems to be two factions in Happy Valley. And it is the Helios people versus the astronauts people. It's definitely something different. Even when poor Miles is going out to explore and get those rocks, the guy was kind of very curt with him. And he's like, put your shit in the locker over there. And I'm like, why is he talking to him like that? Like that's not a nice way to speak to somebody. And I realize it's like he doesn't value him as somebody who's important on the space station. At least that's how I thought about it. What did you think about that, where he gets that suit that smells terrible and, like this whole weird thing? What did you think about that?
Well, my impression, I thought that the guy who was doing that for him was also a Helios employee. So I thought him using that language was just him being like, hey, you know what? I'm in my position. I'm here. I got my space and I'm doing stuff that I want, and I'm getting some extra cash for helping you out. And so it's like, he doesn't, it's like, yeah, just put your shit over there. It's like, it's just laid back. I didn't think that he was being rude to Miles, other than, I think Miles certainly thought, because Miles, his he's the southern, boy that's like, he's like, I'm not used to, a stranger behaving quite like this. I don't know him close enough to be, trading barbs back and forth like that. So, he was a little taken aback by it. Yeah. So it really soured his excitement. He's like, oh, my first time out. He was like trying to make conversation with the other guy. And he's like, yeah, huh? Okay. But
Yeah.
again, I'm so, it's like, why would you just, here's a suit, go out and have fun? It's like, what? It seems so foolhardy. It's just like, it's kind of beggars belief that they're at a point where they wouldn't be keeping tabs of who's going out, where are they, who's with them, all that. It it takes that gal. She's sitting there and she's like, why isn't he back? He should be back. It's like, I don't know. Like, we got to go out and find him. It's like, and his oxygen is getting low. Like, he's just sitting out there going, oh crap. It's like, I think I've really screwed up.
It's not his greatest moment, and certainly they do come to get him. And I think it is really interesting. He gets injured, and Sam does repair his arm. I think she stitches his arm up, and they get a little too close for comfort. They're supposed to be working. They're actually supposed to be working, right, Julian? And she runs off with this, with the, I guess it's a small rover to find him. But they're supposed to be loading more equipment onto different things. And it is funny because this is the first time he's really out there. And I didn't think he'd ever even get a chance to go out from the way they were talking about it, but it looks like he managed to work that out. And, he did find himself in a very bad way. And, things could have gone very south for him. This could have killed him. And it's kind of treated almost as in, like he's very kind of like Pollyanna-ish about going out onto the surface of Mars, like he's just, everything's going to be great, and, when which also makes me wonder another thing about the situation with Margot, where once she goes ahead and talks about, and says why the failure happened, we hear from Irina. Irina kind of tells Margot that NASA took her for granted.
Uh-huh.
And I found that very interesting because, we're kind of talking about how they're taking a lot of things for granted on the station, the safety protocols, beating up each other, like this underground, black market system that's going on. And essentially this kind of, animosity between the Helios employees and the astronauts. They are taking a lot of things for granted. But did NASA, in your opinion, take Margot for granted all those years?
She was the director, for crying out loud, of NASA, and she was at the top for many years. Now, did they take her for granted early on? Maybe, yeah, maybe, but she was at the top, working within in the system as well as she could. She'd done pretty much the best that she could working there. She was having to, deal with the fact that the government was, kind of calling the shots on, a lot of the programs that they were going to do. But, I don't know. I think that she was kind of trying to gaslight her a little bit on that, to say that they took her for granted, just to make her feel that that you're lucky to be with us. They'll also be, we're going to remind you every once in a while that, you could have been caught as a spy and you could be in jail right now. So just, play with us because you're lucky to be here and out free doing stuff. Free. Kind of.
That's a good point.
She can be. Yeah.
That's a good point. And, I think it is really interesting because the animosity plays itself out on the station, not just between Helios employees and astronauts, but there's animosity between Danielle and Ed. And I really do like this dynamic that they have, but darn them for not telling us what happened to Danny. Because right when I thought they were going to say it, Julian, I was like, we're going to find out. Yay. And then it's like, they're like, don't talk about Danny. And I'm like, no, talk about him. Tell us what happened to Danny. What happened? And Ed's like, that's not my fault. What happened to Danny? I don't have anything to do with that. That's not my fault.
Oh, yeah.
Is Danny in the station on the fourth level, the fourth sub level, Julian?
No, I don't think so. You're thinking because he told the gal that was her name, Svetlana or whatever, that she could, he's like, we'll find a place for you to hide. No, it's so desperate. No, I don't think Danny, he's if he's there, he's done something out with that module. I don't know. I don't think he's hiding. Maybe he is. I don't know, but that would be the biggest, type of, it's like, as considering how lax it is up there on Mars, considering anybody can just get into a suit and go out, you have a point. I wouldn't put it past Ed to go out there and go, we're going to get you into the base so you're not living out here, on the verge of death. So.
Yeah, because he wanted to bring her, I think, down to sub-level 4, and they were going to hold out. And it started to feel very ridiculous and very desperate and just impossible, what Ed was saying. Why does he push so hard with Danielle Poole when he knows that Danielle Poole pretty much has been doing everything? Her decisions really are just for the benefit of everybody. She doesn't have an agenda. She's not trying to do this for a career, as she says. But Ed accuses her of that. Like it's a weak argument. How much longer do you think Ed is going to be on the station, Julian?
God, not much longer, I hope. He should be gone. He needs to come clean and show her his shaking hand and say, I need to go, but he can't. His ego won't let it happen. And I think that's one of his biggest failings through the whole show has been his ego. And as much as he and Danielle have shared together, he still sees her as a bit of a competitor as far as, the ego. She has no ego. She's just doing what needs to be done and getting it done well. And he has issues with that because
something I'm really concerned about, Julian, is that I think you and I both know that there's going to be another mission. Once they find out what's happened and why, and that on the asteroid mission, there's going to be another mission, and Ed's going to be involved, and a mistake might happen. Thank goodness nothing happened in the last one. But if you remember, she was doing quite a bit of the flying, and she's not there anymore. And he makes saying, there's nobody else who has the qualifications that she has. It's completely out of their hands as to her staying on that, in Happy Valley. But honestly, Julian, I think you and I both know that I have a feeling she was picking up a lot of slack for Ed at this point. I think it's come to a point where she has his back, and she might be maybe one of two people who knows what's going on. Do you think at this point, and I did ask you this question last week, do you think at this point Danielle Poole knows that Ed has a problem with flying and has issues now?
I don't know. I think she's so busy trying to chase around all the other things that she's seeing going on the base that she hasn't allowed herself to pick up on that yet. But see, that's the problem is, who else is there? They haven't shown any others who could do the pilot job that they need. And we have to assume that the only other person who could do it would be Danielle. And the last person he's going to want to allow to do that is going to be Danielle, because he's going to see it as an attack on, as a denigration of him somehow, because, you weren't able to do the job or whatever, and because he didn't come clean in the first place. You know, he has continually put himself in these situations. So I'm I'm not happy with Ed's decision processes right now.
Yeah, it certainly is something to think about. And, now I have to be honest about this. Next week will be the halfway point of the season, right? With 5 episodes, right, Julian? I hope I'm saying the right thing.
Yeah,
For a total
I
of
believe
10
so.
episodes. Yeah. So certainly what they decide to do is they decide to bring Satsana back down to earth, and she's going to have a trial in India, and that's supposed to be better for her because it's a neutral country, and she'll be able to have a proper trial. But she'll just, I guess, I don't know whether this man is going to live. This was also something that was up in the air. They didn't know if he was going to survive, and they were talking about all sorts of horrible things, like he might have brain damage and etc. But it is frightening how easily someone can get killed up there, even just by a little shove, which is what she did. I'm not belittling what she did, but even with just the smallest push, a person can seem to be injured quite badly up there. So that's something else that I think is really interesting as well, that she really didn't care. And I was very surprised she did that in this episode, to be honest with you. I didn't peg this girl for that type of action. But let's just hope that whoever they get, they're going to bring someone else back, because the ship is coming to pick people up, so they're going to be bringing in new cosmonauts. What do you think, Julian? Are we going to see new people?
Well, yeah, I expect there'll be some, but we haven't. They haven't. They haven't placed, like, with Miles, who became a new main character. We saw him kind of early through the process of him becoming, this person who was going to be there. We haven't followed anybody else, as far as new people coming up. So if there are new personnel, they're not going to be major personnel in the way of, you know, um, that much interaction within the story. They're just going to be background stuff, I think, because we haven't seen anything. Now maybe I don't know. We haven't seen how fast things are moving with Kelly and the plan to get the up there to get those robot dogs up there. We don't know when that's going to happen. But it's got to happen at some point in this season. I'm thinking that it's going to be a crux of a major climax thing at the end. It's going to be involved with the asteroid and the dogs and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it does have to happen, and I think it would have to happen soon. But you kind of make a very good point with this, and I'm excited to see how it's going to work out. As I said, I'm not that excited to see those creatures in space, but that's okay. Like, it's going to happen, and there's nothing we can do about it. But I think what will happen, at least my prediction, is that they're going to put a lot of people out of business. And these automatic robots, if Dev can do it right, and since he's a billionaire, he spends $100 million on this, it's like nothing to him. And he can have people harvesting, these robots harvesting much faster than people, pretty much even shut down Mars, or excavate it more than it's ever been excavated before. Who knows what's going to happen? But it should play out pretty interestingly. But how will Kelly's arc about finding life play out there? Are we going to have an ethical dilemma about finding life, in even if it's in a minuscule form, even if it's a bacteria? Is there going to be some kind of ethical dilemma attached with finding life regardless of its form?
I don't know about ethical. I mean, I suppose it could bring up the whole religious aspect again. There could be a faction on Earth that's like could find it offensive that biological life of some sort, even microbial, could be found on another planet, which could kind of damage the reputation of we are the center of the universe type thing, whatever. I don't know how that would play into it. I just think it could be like a MacGuffin of this is the thing we're trying to look for, but in so doing, whatever calamity will befall us at the end of the season is tied up in that search, you know. So I don't know if they're going to make much of this actual discovery if they find anything. I think it's more the mechanism of going through the process of trying to do the search in the first place.
And it does seem like Al Gore's being pushed to his limits as president in the series. And it is a lot of fun to hear him speaking. Do you think this director has much longer as the head of NASA?
Well, he managed to find a way to, make both ends meet, for this situation that they were in. So he seems to be able to tap dance pretty good, but I wouldn't be surprised if somehow he has some sort of a heart attack or a stroke or something like that. I was kind of surprised when I was like, oh, it's Daniel Stern. Wow, I thought that actor was dead. I don't know why. I was happy to see. It's like, oh, he's still alive.
Absolutely, Julian. Well, if anything, we did learn, or at least I am happy for the most part, that we did get to see Miles go on the surface, even if it wasn't the experience that he'd hoped for. At least he got that out of this trip. And who knows, maybe the next time he ventures out, someone else will have his back. And maybe, Julian, he'll leave Mars a millionaire if he can get these rocks down to the Earth, selling them at $5,000 a piece. Let's see if this venture works out for him. Any last thoughts about the episode, Julian? Can you hear me? You cannot hear me. It's okay. But I just wanted to say, guys, thank you all for joining Julian and I tonight for this review of For All Mankind. Julian, thank you for being here tonight. And I want to thank everybody in the chat for being here as well. Tom Jr. Jackson, my collaborator, moderator, and friend, thank you for the support. We are all good people. And thank you, everybody in the chat who's here. Guys, hope you all are well and enjoying getting ready for a holiday season coming up. And guys, remember, continue to watch For All Mankind. We're going to continue to review those episodes as they come out. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, guys. And remember, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind. Take care, everybody.